So, contrary to popular belief, burglars are not highly skilled people. They do not wear a striped shirt, carry a bag with swag written on it, are more likely to be dressed in something like this. They're going to tell you they're from the water company or something like that, and you're going to drop your guard. And by the time they've got in there and they've stolen your handbag and all the other bits and pieces, you're going to think, how could I possibly have been that stupid? But other times they'd just be walking around the streets, they'd be looking for opportunities. Perhaps it would be an open window. They're going to nip in, nip out, and you'll hardly know they've been there. If you were a burglar, what would you be looking for? The best thing to do is imagine you're a burglar and try to rob your own house. See just how easy it is. Now, a very good place to start when you're looking at home security is locks, because if you haven't got the right lock, and that is a British standard 3621 lock, then your insurance company is probably going to run away from any claim. As a very minimum standard, that's what you're looking for. And it's no good just having that single spring lock, what we call a Yale lock or slam lock in the middle, because that's just not enough, because a burglar can tell immediately just by flexing the bottom of the door whether it's ready for lloyding, which of course is the old credit card trick of just pushing it up and opening the lock. It is so easy for them to open. Now, another thing is that if you're having locks on patio doors, you really need to go for a 2-star lock, something that is secure by design approved, because without that, they can snap off that lock as quickly and as silently as anything they're in. Now, this is a multi-point locking system, which means when you turn the handle up, engage the key, it locks in 4 different places along the door. A lot of you are probably thinking, okay, I can put all these locks in, but if I've got a big sheet of glass, all he's got to do is break that and he's in. And of course that can happen. So if you've got vulnerable areas which you think are particularly inviting to the burglar, in other words, they're hidden away from public view, then laminated glass is a very good option. It's the sort of thing that they use in banks and so on. You can hit it with a sledgehammer and it still won't break through. It makes a lot of noise, which obviously would attract people as well. You can swap out your glass for laminated glass fairly easily and at not too much of a cost. Now, sliding sash windows are particularly attractive to burglars because a lot of the time they're only secured with a very simple and weak latch in the middle, and it's very possible to just get something like a very thin knife, slide it up and flick those open. So at the very least you should have a secondary lock on a sliding sash window. In this case, we've got a button that you push down in the middle and you have to use a key to release that. So that helps, but it's not perfect. The better option is to put something like a star lock on the edges so that you can stop it being slid up and down. So here's something you should never do, and that's to leave your keys by your front door. One thing, they're on full view and a thief can just fish through the letterbox sometimes and grab them, or they can just break a window and get through. Now you might think, okay, we've got a double skin door here, I've got laminated glass out there. The chances of anybody grabbing these keys are very slim, but it's another way that they can make use of your keys, and that's a range extender, because these keys can be picked up electronically by a device. You need to have those keys protected from the range extender, and a very good way of doing it is with this little safe here. This is lined basically to protect it from radio waves, and if you pop your key inside one of these, it can't be cloned by somebody outside the building. So here's an example of multi-point locking. This was actually put here by the old lady that used to live in this house. She's got a bolt at the top, which she probably couldn't even reach. She's got a Yale lock in the middle. She's got a chain here, which is very sensible. And she's got a bolt at the bottom. Now you'll notice that this letterbox doesn't have a guard to stop anybody putting a fishing rod through and grabbing the keys. But that's because we've got a porch. We've got another door behind this one. So if a thief was looking through at the front door, they would see these locks here. They would also see the fact we've got a chub lock on the inside, and they would probably go around the back of the house, somewhere a bit more discreet. Now, if you want to make a burglar's life really easy, then why not just put your money in an old teapot or even in the back of a clock? If you want to make it a bit harder for them, then you can get yourself an insurance rated safe, which will make it a little bit more difficult, but please don't hide it behind a picture. Now, there's a lot of automation around these days which will help you stay secure, and obviously the first thing people think about is a burglar alarm. If you're going to fit a burglar alarm, ask your insurance company first, because if you fit one and then go to your insurance company, and may say to you, oh, that one's not approved. So best to get the approval before you fit it. We have other great technologies such as the Ring Doorbell, which is a system whereby somebody rings your doorbell, you can answer it from your phone and talk to them. And of course you could be in the Caribbean, you could be anywhere in the world when you do that, so they won't know whether you're in or not. So another very interesting development is the Avia smart door lock, which we've covered. We covered the installation of that in a separate video. And of course, PIR sensors to turn your lights on outside when somebody comes around the house. Obviously the foxes can turn those on and off a bit. It can be a little bit annoying, so don't point them towards a neighbour. So if you are looking to put in a CCTV camera system, this one is by ANNKE. They've supplied this DIY system, if you like. You can do it yourself. There's no complicated wiring. All the plugs are molded onto the end of a cable, so it's basically plug and play. The cameras themselves are HD cameras, are high definition, 5 megapixel, they're weatherproof, and they will give you a good quality picture. It's got a hard drive which is 1 terabyte, and it's also using H.265, which means that it's compressing those pictures, taking up less space on that hard drive, so you can get longer recording time. So if you go away on holiday for 3 or 4 weeks, this thing will keep recording, and you can even have a look at it from your holiday. The only hard bit really is going to be running the cables outside, because you've got to make sure that they're not accessible and they can't be cut. Really good system, I'd recommend it, and these are very low cost now really, and don't take long to fit. Now, another bit of technology is having your lights switching on and off while you're away. Now that's got really sophisticated now. You can do it with several lights, you can do it centrally, and of course you can just have them going on and off in a logical sequence, so say from downstairs to your bedroom and so on. And something else you might consider, especially if you've got a larger property, is to have perimeter alarms, driveway alarms, that kind of thing. Now these could be solar powered, they've got fantastic range, and they will give you a very early indication of anybody that's coming onto your property. Now I've got to confess that gravel is not my favourite material for covering a drive with, because it gets all over the place, but actually it's got one big advantage, and that is that as you try and creep towards a house, you make a bit of a noise. So look at this guy, nobody there, ladder up against the building and back gate open. What could be easier? Whereas here, burglar alarm, everything's closed up. I think I'll give that one a miss. So if you've got a property which borders a public footpath, then you've got to make sure you've got good fences, make sure they're difficult to climb over, and don't do things like this. Gives people a handy way up. And don't forget, if you're having building work done and maybe you've got the loft open, you're having a conversion there, you've got some easy access for burglars, you need to tell your insurance company, because you materially altered the risk. And don't forget to keep your hedges trimmed, because they can provide the perfect cover for a burglar. Now, full marks here for having a nicely concealed camera covering the front door, but not so good because the cables are exposed and it can be easily cut. And while we're talking about cameras, don't forget, brush off those cobwebs, because when the camera comes on night vision, all you can see is the cobwebs. Now, if you have a motorhome or a caravan outside your house, it's going to be fairly obvious when you're away on holiday. But there are other signs that burglars can take. Social media, for example, they see pictures of you on your sunbed telling your friends where you are. Then they're going to know you're away. They're also going to know you're away if they see newspapers and milk and things piling up at the door. And even when they look through the windows, see the calendar and they see holiday marked out on it. Don't share information, make it hard, keep yourself a little bit discreet. Now these days you're just as likely to get robbed by stealth as you are by somebody breaking into your house, and it just pays for you to be a little bit skeptical and to ask people for their IDs. Don't be embarrassed by doing this, and don't be embarrassed by checking, by phoning somebody before you let them in. And don't take the number off the back of the ID card, because that could be a fake. So if they're putting you under pressure to get in, if they're impatient, then they're probably not legitimate. if they are legitimate, if they really do come from the gas company, the water company, or whatever, they will be patient with you and they will fully understand that you have to verify all the details. So being aware of these things can save you from becoming a victim. And also don't forget that you can be robbed on the telephone these days. Somebody phones you up, you need to check who they are. Don't buy anything off the phone or at the door. That's my policy and I stick to it 100%. Anybody phones me up trying to sell me something, I say, very sorry, but I do not buy anything on the phone. That's my policy. Send me your literature and I'll have a look at it. And guess what? I never hear from them again. You know, very often people talk about criminals targeting the elderly, and that's true, but it's not just the elderly. It can be anybody, even people who think they're really clued up. I knew somebody who worked for BBC Watchdog, and even they were conned. It can happen to all of us. In the heat of the moment, you're put under pressure, somebody arrives at your door, says, can I use your phone? They've broken down outside, something like that. Then they're in, and suddenly they've robbed you. And you feel absolutely stupid because looking back on it, it seems so obvious. Now, if there's one thing that will detect and also possibly deter burglars, it's one of these little fellas. So here are some services that you might not be aware of. Royal Mail KeepSafe will actually keep your mail for up to 2 months if you're away. Save it piling up on your doormat. And you can register your valuables with the immobilised National Property Register. And you might also consider forming or joining an existing neighbourhood watch scheme. And if you want a locksmith, check out the MLA licensed locksmiths. They're key workers. They know what they're doing. So let's just suppose the worst has happened and you have been burgled. You come home, you find the front door is difficult to open. That's probably because the burglars secured it from the inside so they can escape out the back. And just let them escape. It really isn't worth confronting them. They don't want to fight, they just want to get away. So don't try and act the hero, because these days it can end up with you being the victim of something far worse than a burglary. Phone the police. You'll probably just get a crime reference number. They won't even come and investigate in many cases. Unfortunately, that's the way it is, but at least you can go to your insurance company. Now, you've got to start listing all the things that have been stolen. That's really difficult. I know that. It's sometimes months later that you think, oh, where's that gone? And you add that to your list of things that you've lost. But try your best to just work out what's been stolen. You'll have to give your insurance company a crime reference number, and hopefully they will take care of it from there on. And the other thing is, if you have been burgled, then if the keys have gone, you need to change your locks fairly quickly. And also, if you've had cards taken, don't forget to cancel all those with the bank. It's a lot to think of when you're in that horrible moment where you're realizing what's happened to you. But if you take care of those details now, you can save yourself from becoming a further victim. And if you want further information about anything that's been mentioned here, then please go to the page on our website where we've covered all these in more detail and given you the links to all those organisations and products that we think are going to be useful to you. Now, we didn't make this video to scare you half to death. We just wanted to outline a few things which you could do to reduce your chances of becoming a victim of crime. It's still statistically unlikely that you will be a victim, and you can still rest in your bed knowing that you've done everything you can to reduce the risk. And if you want to find out more about home security, we have other videos on Skill Builder which cover alarms and locks, and we're going to be adding more in the future. So subscribe if you're not a subscriber. Come back and see us soon.